isn't his preferred position, and now at 21 he's suddenly into the Premier League. By all accounts, a really good player. I don't know if you've seen much of him in the past season or two. I think you came across him briefly when he was a bit younger, but he's kicked on and done very well.
He has done, yeah. I worked with him for a small period with the under 19s a couple of years ago. He was in the squad. He would have been in the squad alongside, funny enough, Declan Rice, Conor Masterson as well would have been the centre halves in the squad at that particular time. So all of those players really have kind of watched from a distance to see how they're kind of progressing. And he's just had to be patient, Dara, Joe. He's had to go and play at a lower level. I remember seeing him play at Exeter, kind of see his name crop up a couple of times. So he's worked hard. He's obviously put his head down and tried to develop his game as best he can and just be patient and wait for his opportunity back at West Brom. That opportunity came at the new year. And as we all know, as a young pro, these opportunities can be few and far between. You've got to grab it. And clearly he's done that. So I'm delighted for him. And, great opportunity from next season to showcase his talents on the biggest stage of all.
Yeah, he certainly came across very well, and Slaven Bilic has talked about him as a very hard worker, so we'll be seeing him on Match of the Day hopefully very soon. And on that theme, actually, Emmett Malone in the Irish Times had a very good piece where he just detailed the season that's been for Irish players in the Premier League. It hasn't been bad, you know. I mean, we're inclined to feel in some ways that the days of Premier League footballers coming from Ireland, you know, are dwindling, but there's plenty there and still plenty doing very well. I mean, not least even on the striking situation. He was talking about Connolly, who scored that good goal at the weekend, and Adam Ida. The highlight certainly was that FA Cup hat-trick, but he's made a bit of an impact, and Troy Parrott's made his debut, and Michael Obafemi as well has played about 660 minutes of Premier League football. He scored 3 goals, that Old Trafford goal included. So on the whole, the picture was brighter than maybe we had felt it was going to be over the previous few years, I think was the general thrust of the article.
Yeah, but I never bought into that argument, Joe, to be honest with you, in terms of negativity around, where's this next generation, where's the young Irish talent? For me, it's always been there, bubbling under the surface back in Ireland and also at football clubs in England, just not getting the opportunity maybe to express itself. So that has been the case, obviously, this season. 1 or 2 of the lads have had an opportunity. You've mentioned a lot of the forward players there, and you're absolutely right. They have had an impact, and they're the ones which kind of jump out at you. But I think there's other players there as well. I've been watching Jason Malumbi all season down at Millwall and speaking to people down at Millwall. They've been really pleased with him. He's made a big impact down there, and he's one, I think, particularly that central midfield area, Joe. I think potentially going forward, we need to find 1 or 2 more options in that area of the pitch. Some years ago, when Robbie stepped back, it was, we'll never get another Robbie Keane. Where's the kind of centre forwards? That argument isn't there at the moment for obvious reasons. You just mentioned the names. But kind of that central midfield area, Glenn Whelan won't be able to play forever. Just kind of orthodox centre midfield is kind of the more traditional box-to-box, good defensive attributes, you know, comfortable on the ball, you know, can get forward as of when as well. But just good all-round centre midfielders that tick a lot of boxes, and Jason Malumbi is one of them. Josh Cullen as well. Spoke to a few Charlton supporters, albeit he's only on loan down there. They've been really pleased with him. They regard him very highly, and he's impressed me, Joe, a couple of times he's played for Ireland. Not a kind of maybe standout 9 out of 10 performance as man of the match, but he's been very competent in everything that he's done, what's been asked of him. So I've been impressed with him in a kind of subtle way. And if the likes of Jason Knight up at Derby, seen a couple of cameos of him. He's chipped in a few goals at the end of the season. So, yeah, and Dara Shea you've mentioned as well. Conor Masterson is actually getting a couple of games at QPR as well, Joe. So a lot of reasons to be optimistic. But I'd make the argument there always has been. I think if you delve a little bit deeper, actually do a bit of homework and get out and have a look at these players up close, whether it's kind of League of Ireland or over in the in England, whether it be the Football League, kind of Championship or Premiership, that kind of talent, that young talent, Joe, for me, it's always been there.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I guess it's great, though, when you see it coming through at Premier League level. And you're mentioning the midfield players there. The other name which has cropped up as a bonus, because we were worried we mightn't just see this guy again, is James McCarthy. So he's notched up 16 starts and come on in another 17 games on top of that. By his standard of late, that's a lot of football suddenly.
Yeah, that's good news. Yeah, he's the one player I've always rated very, very highly, actually. And I've been kind of just being patient, just waiting for him to get through the spate of injuries. one or two issues there, Joe, but we may not know the truth of it in terms of his relationship with the senior international team. Just you look at it from a distance and you think maybe it hasn't been Graham Mabry's relationship, maybe one or two of the previous managers. I'm not really sure, but he's that type of player. I'm talking about that kind of all-round midfield player. You can't pigeonhole him as a holding midfielder. He's not like a number 8 in attack-minded midfielder who's got no defensive attributes whatsoever. He is that all-round midfielder that I'm talking about. He reads the game well. You can trust him defensively. Positional sense is good. He uses the ball kind of very efficiently and a good engine in him. So, yeah, to kind of supplement those kind of players, I'm maybe talking about the likes of Jason Lumley, Josh Cullen, and of course the likes of kind of Jeff Hendrick and one or two others, kind of Horan. It goes without saying those lads will still be around. But James McCarthy's always been the one for me. That dependable one, that kind of almost a deep line midfield position, someone you can trust, someone that you can send those fullbacks higher up the pitch. You can get players in advanced areas of the pitch because you got someone that central midfield area who can dart into those fullback positions quickly, can cover the ground, who can kind of sense danger. Won't panic, kind of calm demeanour. That type of player who is kind of, I wouldn't say they're few and far between, Joe, those type of central midfielders, but they're not as many of them around as there was previously. And it's the type of player, a number of the top clubs, I know we've touched on it briefly in terms of next season, but a number of the top clubs in England are scratching around for that type of player, the likes of kind of Chelsea and Manchester United, I'd say, in particular Tottenham Hotspur as well. So they are invaluable in the modern game.
Before I leave Dara O'Shea totally behind then, the other thing I wanted to put to you about his career is that he's come through as a centre-half, very much a centre-half all the way through. And for West Brom, over the last 6 months, COVID lockdown aside, he's been in at right back, where he's never really played senior football before, but he's pitched up and he's done okay and he's found it okay. When you were coming through, were you predominantly centre-half or right back?
Well, this is the thing. I played centre-half all my schoolboy career in Dublin, and but I had to go into the full-back position. I went to England just for a lot of different reasons, physically, tactically. I just couldn't deal with it at centre-half, so I was pushed to that right-back position. And it's no bad thing, Joe. It's another string to your bow. You have to learn another position. It is, although right-back is only maybe 10, 15 yards further right than that right-sided centre-half position. It is in some respects totally different in terms of positional sense. You really have to kind of learn the position over a period of time, and he'll do him well. It'll be good in terms of his development there, because in the modern game, Joe, a lot of football, maybe not so much in the Premiership. You see a little bit in terms of a back three. You see a lot of in Italy, and obviously a lot of Italian football recently, but a lot of top teams in Italy are playing with a back three. And for me, back in the day, a back three invariably consisted of 3 centre halves, where for me, as I kind of looked at the game, the more I understood it, the best kind of players to play in that back three for me are 2 fullbacks and a centre half in the middle, because those wide positions are best suited to a fullback. Obviously, you've got to be mobile, you've got to know how to defend, but if you can get forward in possession of the ball, be comfortable and drive forward into midfield areas and pass forward and pass through the lines, that's the ideal player you want playing right of the three. So the point I'm trying to make is that kind of versatility in Dara's game will serve him well, because not only can he play an orthodox centre back and even right back in a 4, but if Slaven Bilic elects to flip to maybe a back 3 next season, he could very easily integrate him in that right at 3 position, because he'll be more comfortable on the ball. He'll be comfortable drifting into that orthodox right back position and defending in 1v1 situation. So it all goes very well for his development, having that kind of versatility to his game.
Yeah. Maybe your answer depends on who you were playing against on a given day, but did you have a preference? Which was more enjoyable to play?
At different stages in my career, actually, Joe, I enjoyed for the first half of my career playing at fullback, because I had me legs then, whatever little bit of speed that I had.
You had your what then?
Yeah, exactly. Maybe technically speed. Maybe that's my energy, Joe. I had energy in my legs that could actually take me up and down the pitch, and that was new to me, because I never used to schoolboy football. I never used to cross the halfway line.
Yeah.
So I quite enjoyed it, having to improve my game, better my game, and learn how to cross the ball into the box and maybe play little combinations higher up the pitch. That was totally alien to me. I had to learn that. I had to develop that. So I really kind of enjoyed that the first half of my career. But I must admit, second half of my career, when I lost a little bit of juice in my legs, going back into the centre half, I really enjoyed it as well, because I felt comfortable there, Joe. Talking about positional sense, understanding the position. I was always comfortable at centre half. I kind of understood the positions where I needed to position myself and my relationship with the other kind of defenders around me. So I I enjoyed them both, but I must admit the ego probably enjoyed getting forward a little bit more in the first half of my career, and wasn't a few crosses into the box and getting a few assists.
I was just going to say, it must be a nice feeling to get down the outside, whipping across, and someone heads the ball in, and you could have been part of the business end of the game. I can see how, or even a bit of combination play, especially if you're playing centre half growing up. Yeah, suddenly playing a 1-2 around the fullback and getting in behind, that's kind of exhilarating.
Yeah, you're right. It is a little bit buzz there. You kind of put a good cross into the box. And I played in some teams. I was lucky, particularly at Wimbledon, with some great headers of the ball. Centre forwards and centre midfielders. Robbie Earle, probably the best head of the ball. I played from centre midfield, arrived in the box. Marcus Gale, Carl Lieberman, Carl Cord, big, strong lads, but great headers of the ball. So I didn't necessarily have to be the greatest cross in the world for them to get on the end of it. But yeah, they'd put it in the corner net, and there'd be a little bit of a buzz with that. But that said, on the flip side, Joe,
what was your assist bonus, Kenny? What did you get per assist?
It's not as fun if you don't get as many plaudits, and the buzz isn't there to a certain extent, but it's a different type of enjoyment that you get from defending well. Defending as a unit, not so much individually, but the whole defensive unit operating as one, whether it be a back three, 4 or 5, or whatever it is, just being a part of that, of a defensive unit that kind of functions very well and doesn't concede chances and kind of has the upper hand on opposition forwards. In all honesty, Joe, that's probably the best feeling of all, I must admit.
No, I can imagine that. And you as a back four, or even a back five, you include the keeper, you're working well as a unit. And, there's that, we're humming here and it's going well. Yeah. What was your assist bonus at Wimbledon?
I thought keepers back as part of the defensive unit, Joe. I must admit, I never quite bought into that one.
You ignored them.
They still stand alone for me. The goalkeeper still stand alone, different breed.
I'm going to ask this for a third time. I'm being misheard here. What was your assist bonus at Wimbledon? How much per assist was Kenny Cunningham pocketing?
Well, believe it or not, we actually had a clean sheet bonus at Wimbledon. Believe it or not, because they were very, they were very proactive in terms of the bonuses, particularly goal bonuses. And I always remember Dean Holsworth, the greediest man in the world, when he got into the box, but for obvious reasons.
Yeah.
I mean, I won't throw figures at you, but there was some sizable chunks of money, and there wasn't a big money paid in wages, but there was some big chunks of money paid to players at that particular time at Wimbledon for goal bonuses. But so as defenders, we always felt a little bit hard done by, especially if you're flying down the wing, you're putting crosses into the box, and these lads are heading them into the back of the net, and they won't even buy a drink in the club bar afterwards. So at some point, the owner felt it was only good and proper that he started dishing out a few clean sheet bonuses to defenders, believe it or not.
Well, proper order.
Yeah, so that was very welcome.
Are the goal bonuses still a thing?
I thought I'd be surprised, Joe, because the wages now are at such a level. I don't think they're as significant now. I mean, those goal bonuses potentially, Joe, could have been doubling your wages for some players.
Okay.
A goal of a weekend would practically double your wages. That was significant then. It really was. And I wasn't a big fan of it. I got to be honest with you. When I learned about it after a period of time at the club, I know we're going off on a tangent here.
No, it's interesting.
I wasn't a big fan of it. For those reasons, Joe, because it meant so much, doubling your wages, and the lads will pay the bills and the whole shebang that goes with it. And it definitely did affect people. I'm laughing about one or two players, Dean Holmes, that I've mentioned there, but it's only human nature, Joe. You get into the box, you can pass the ball across for a tap in for your mate, or you can take it on yourself to slightly more tight angle. You probably have a lesser chance of scoring, but at the end of the day, it's going to be an extra $5,000 in your pocket if you pull it off. Well, don't be surprised if he blanks his mate in the middle of the goal, shifts around to his left foot and closes his eyes and tries to hit as hard as possible. So it affects your decision making. I'm laughing about it, but I kind of felt it affected people's decision making at crucial areas of the pitch at crucial times, and I didn't think that was a good thing. So in principle, in terms of you do well, you get rewarded, yeah, absolutely. But for me, it should be a collective thing. The whole group. Now, if you're going to ask me next, did I, on a point of principle, did I hand back my clean sheet money when we got one? No, I didn't. So I shouldn't take the moral high ground on this one either.
Yeah. Although to be fair, it's a different thing. You have to work as a unit to keep the clean sheet. Although I'm gonna troll through the footage now and see if there is any footage of Wimbledon 3-0 up, 90th minute, and the opposition score a goal, and Kenny Cunningham's really upset, and the fans are thinking, look how much he cares. That's the honour he has in the badge. We all know what's going on now.
Character for Kenny to get that wound up, conceding a goal and the game's over. Yeah, read between the lines.
So, Well, that's Dara O'Shea, and a bit of a tangent thrown in, and we wish him well, and we'll see him in the new year. What game did you watch on closing weekend?
Well, I haven't got a lot of options, Joe. There's only one on my TV. That was West Ham and Aston Villa. So I had to look at that. All the other scores were coming in, but wasn't it? To be honest, Joe, it wasn't really thrilling minute stuff. Like, last day of the season, we're so used to that. Oh, the big build up, etc., etc., etc. But wasn't really feeling it, to be honest with you. I left the game a couple of times. I mean, once Watford went 3-0 down, that was pretty much them out. And then obviously Bournemouth got a healthy lead. Then it was pretty much down to Villa, wasn't it, just to get that draw down at the Olympic Stadium, which they managed to do. But I was never hugely invested in the game, maybe as I have been previous end of the season. I've got to be honest with you. Wouldn't go as far as to say maybe a damn squib, but yeah, I wasn't. It was hardly edge of the seat stuff.
Mm. We were just touching on it last night, seeing as you brought up Villa. So Villa without Grealish next year. The consensus, we had Kev on last night and Pat Nevin as well. You'd be a bit worried for them, no?
Well, it all depends on. I'd be a bit worried if they recruit as well as they did last season.
Yeah, well, they spent enough for what they got.
I'd be extremely worried. Yeah, there would be concern because obviously the most creative player. I don't think his numbers actually, jump out off the screen at you. It's not as if you're talking about they're going to lose 15 goals and 15 assists. His numbers haven't been that impressive, but clearly he's an integral part to the team. I don't think so. I wouldn't think, write Villa off if he leaves the football club. Just they got to invest their money wisely. And sometimes, Joe, when you're so dependent on one player, when he kind of leaves the club, it kind of gives more responsibility to other players in the team. I wouldn't say it's a weight lifted off people's shoulders, but it's an opportunity for other people. That's how I'd say it. For other people to step forward and take on a bit more responsibility on the team. So, no, it will be a blow to lose them, but I certainly think with the money that they'll get from wherever it is, and obviously a bit more money to spend as well, for me it's more significant that they spend that money, their recruitment is better than it was next season. And if it is, they'll certainly have a more than a fighting chance. For a lot of players now, they will slingshot straight into European football in August, and then Premier League will restart, and they're looking at 12 months straight of football. There'll be some tired bodies come the end of next season. For others, they'll have a bit of a break. How did you tend to treat your summers? Would you just drop everything, not even go for a jog, and just sit around doing nothing, let the body repair? Or would you keep working away? What worked best for you at the end of a tough season? Well, it was depending on what stage of my career, Joe. I remember my first summer home after my first year in professional football, coming home and getting home in the evening, I think it was, took the car back to Holyhead and the usual hop, skip and a jump, arrived back in my ma's and stuff. But the following morning, I was in my gear. I was in my gear just running around the field out in Coolock and just doing laps, you know what I mean? Just timing myself, doing laps, and pretty much repeat that every day for the whole of the summer. Not because necessarily it was the right thing to do, but it was just like that was my mindset at the time. Right, I'm going back. I've got to get fit. I've got to stay fit. I've got to get fitter. Yeah. Physically, I've got to improve. So that was kind of driving me at the time. Now, that wasn't the case maybe 10, 12 years later, Joe. It might have been a little bit different, maybe a little bit of a drop off for a week, 2 weeks, a holiday, whatever, then slowly introducing yourself again to the training. But everybody's different, Joe. You got to know your own body, and you understand your body more as you get a little bit older. But don't quite buy into this. I've heard someone, you mentioned there yourself, about how the players deal with it. They'll barely have a week off next week. They're back into it. Physically, they're going to be... I mean, all I said was there'll be a few tired bodies. I don't think so. I don't think so. I mean, that lockdown, Joe, lads have been at home doing a little bit of training, but very little. Yeah. In fact, I think it's been noticeable. I don't know if you've watched how much of the European football you've watched. I've watched quite a lot of the Italian football the last couple of months, probably more so than the Premiership. Right. And the physical levels of those players, Joe, significantly better than what I've seen in the Premiership. The first couple of Italian games I watched, this spot on. The physical condition of the players was great, very dynamic. The kind of movement, the pace of the game, the tempo was really good. Pretty much picked up where they left off. Right. Probably that wasn't the case from what I saw with the Premiership. A little bit slow, lethargic. to begin with, probably because the players probably weren't as professional.
Yeah.
And that bit of time they had at home, doing that one-to-one train and having to be disciplined and train to a certain level of intensity, some of them probably dropped a little bit off that, to be honest. So for me, like, there was more than enough opportunity for players to get that kind of bit of break that you were talking about, time to recover, to recoup. I know psychologically there was always that we could get going pretty soon, but from a physical point of view, for me, there was enough time there. There was enough period of time for players to rest, players who were injured to get themselves ready. Other players, there was no kind of physical intensity to the training they were doing. There was no kind of, they went on the training pitch physically coming into contact with other players. So I don't buy it as well. I'm actually looking forward to the start next week, because I think it should start off a bit quicker than it has done previously. So I'm hoping for a little bit more actually when the season starts.
Yeah, it's funny you say that, because Jack Grealish was interviewed about 2 games ago and his form hadn't been great post restart, and he was saying that he just still wasn't at full fitness. And I thought, this is, what have you been doing to kind of come back so sluggish? So some definitely didn't work as hard as others. On a final point, so you going home and running those laps in your first year or two as a pro, and you were saying that mightn't be necessarily what you do now. Maybe you do more speed work or gym work, or I'm sure the programs are different. It sounds as much as anything like that was serving you mentally, psychologically. I am going to go back fit. I'm going to make myself stronger. And however much it may or may not have benefited you physically, you probably went back that bit steelier.
Yeah, you're right, Joe. But yeah, I mean, back then, Joe, just the information, the data wasn't there in terms of, like, clubs weren't giving you sheets to take home. This is what you need to be doing when you're at home. I needed it physically to build me body up to get a lot stronger. But I just didn't receive that information for for a number of years, in all honesty. So I probably wasted a lot of time and wasted a lot of energy. I wouldn't say damaged my body, but probably doing the wrong type of things. I needed to be strengthening and conditioning, really. I was herding around like Forrest Gump around the field as fast as I could. And I needed to be concentrating in other areas, getting me legs stronger, quads, core stability, all those type of things. But you might as well have been talking French, like, to me, saying those words to me. So that information is there now for the players, but I think psychologically it's nice to get away for a week or two, whether that's family, friends, or wherever it is, Joe. Just kind of switch off. But from a physiologically, I think your body almost demands it. I just couldn't do it. Even in my latter years, Joe, I couldn't switch off for kind of 2, 3, 4 weeks without doing anything. My kind of body mind just wouldn't allow it. But you learn that in all sports, elite level of stuff, whatever. You understand your body more as you get a bit older. You know exactly what's required. So there's no excuses really when players come back into the group. Their physical levels should be exactly where they need to be to go into real kind of intensive training drills and training. So that's why I think the season will start. It'll start pretty well in terms of the tempo and the intensity. It should be as high as it's ever been, if not more so.
Well, listen, we'll be talking to you soon about it, and Champions League and Europa League on the way. Kenny, thanks a mil. Appreciate it. See you later.
Anytime, Joe. Take care.